from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and to every nook and cranny receiving the signals from our 100,000 watt transmitters emanate or putting them into those boxes known as radios, aka the Howard Reynolds machines. Folks, welcome to all our international listeners as well. Getting our signals via the magic of the internet, formerly known as ARPANET, first designed, created by we the people, and then hijacked by we, the plutocracy, the oligarchy, the corporatocracy. But folks, it is our mission to take all back that belongs to we, the people. Without further ado, let's go to our geniuses, Los Genios, in the studio with El Señor Howard Reynolds and Jacques Van Beba.
Well, I finally got top billing. You know, everybody's been top billing Jack, which, you know, that's Jack is, you know, he's a very valuable person here.
Well, that's why I get top billing.
Well, that's right, and I don't mind that at all.
But you're the one with the big shoulders.
Yeah, big heads, more like it.
That is funny, man. That is funny. How you guys doing this morning?
Obviously, we're doing pretty good.
Really, there's something in the water this morning. I'm not sure what it is. Jack, you got a whole daggum page of wisdom, so let's go ahead and get to that.
All right. Yes, America. America needs to take a good, hard, long look at itself. We have a Supreme Court that's in the pockets of the wealthy. The military-industrial complex and the Pentagon are waging war overtly and covertly throughout the world. Our politicians are corrupted by corporate money. We've elected a madman to the presidency. Ask yourself, does America really want to be an empire that rules the world militarily and economically?
Yes.
That's the question.
Well, the answer is yes, Jack. They do.
Yes, I know they do.
The common folks don't.
And look at the trouble we're in.
I know. Well, the average person doesn't want that. But this is what our politicians are doing, and they continue to vote these clowns in. Why? Well,
I don't
know.
You know what, though? Yeah, let's not let's do this. Let's resolve ourselves for, you know, moving forward. I mean, we took, you know, there's one thing that my mother, I think it was, used to tell me, either my mother or father, and that is a 2-step forwards, 1 step backwards. The thing about it is not to take that other step back again. Well, we took a couple of steps forward and we took a step backward with Brother Trump. And it looked like Brother Trump is going to try to get us to take a few acres back or a few lengths even further with some of these nominees that he's putting in there. To which I say, you know, folks, let's just keep our cool, keep our eyes on the ball, and understand that, you know, it's still one person, one vote. It is still we the people. Beforehand, before I come out with this short monologue, let's bring in our star guest of Thursday, the person that's always here, which is Neil Aquino, founder of the Houston Democracy Project at HoustonDemocracyProject.com. I love this guy who's out there always busting his AWS to really keep people informed and make sure that he's where the action is locally and nationally. So without further ado, we have El Señor Neil Aquino. How are you doing, my brother?
Right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, world, the vast KPFT signal and streaming and world. And it's another great day here in Houston, Texas.
Yes, it's a great day in Texas. But Neil, let's start with you. I can say my stuff anytime. There's something that's really irking you, and the reality is because it is so sinister. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, there that could be anything. You've opened the whole door, but there are two topics I had this morning, and I haven't yet had a chance to blog on them. But there are two topics. Are we haven't mentioned lately our lousy HISD board of managers, which is a collection of 9 scoundrels appointed in essence by Greg Abbott when the elected board was toppled and deposed. And that elected board actually remains elected. There are still actually 9 elected school board members, and a few of them occasionally you will see some of them. So they have the board of managers, and that the people of Houston recently rejected the HISD bond, and I think the majority was something like 60-40. So they have meetings monthly. They have other meetings, but they have a main monthly meeting, and they are now limiting public comment section. So they've had a as do other school boards have something called a hearing of the community. I don't know another school board, but you can speak to non-agenda items at this hearing of the community. And from the Houston Landing, board members voted 8-1 to advance a policy that would eliminate a portion of the meetings called hearing of the community, where members of the public could address the board about any district-related matter. So, in my experience, a few things happen. People do bring up issues. I don't like the principal here. There's not enough crossing guards here. What about the program at this school for my child? And then the people who have opposed it. So Ruth Kravitz of Community Voices for Public Education has sort of been the leader of opposition to the takeover. And the meetings have gone very long. The meetings run very long. Now, they signed up for this. They signed up. You had to volunteer to be a board manager. So they also, according to the Landing, in November, members gave themselves a 1 out of 10 rating on community engagement at their annual self-evaluation in November, right? So they said, so what they've been arguing, Mike Miles, the superintendent, has been arguing that these people coming to the board are not representative. And yet, obviously, they are representative because the people rejected the bond primarily because of Mike Miles. So people have been coming to the board, criticizing the thing. The meetings have been going late. The board president, Miss Audrey Monaghy, says, let's do community engagement in a way that's authentic and actually having communication with the folks raising concerns. But that's where you can go and raise concerns. Right?
I find, I just don't believe the words that you're saying. It reminds me of when activists go out there to fight for policies. They like to say, well, those are the activists. Those aren't the real people.
Right.
Just maybe if, and I love her, etc. So my progressives don't get on my back. But maybe if some of if some of Harris's people had come and talked to the activists, they would have heard the concerns that we had. That would have helped mitigate that loss.
Right.
I'm sorry, the
Right.
activists do have the pulse of the common person. Go ahead, my friend.
Well, that was a definite objection to Colin Alred's campaign, that it
Yes.
was very remote. Under the Texas Open Meetings Act, school boards are required to provide the public an opportunity to speak about items listed on the meeting agenda. However, legally, don't have to give people opportunity to address the board. So what you could do, what I might, they could have an item 53 to buy paper clips, and so you can speak on the agenda. So you could say, paper clips hold things together, just like an elected school board would hold communities together. And then you could, but I encourage people, so that in the January meeting is going to be the final vote. This policy takes two votes or 2 readings. And I encourage people to go to the January meeting and object to this, and to be mindful that this unelected board, it's really unbelievable. This is from the Landing again. All Houston area's largest school districts, including Cy-Fair, Katy, Fort Bend, Conroe, and Aldine, offer the public an opportunity to speak about non-agenda items. And some of those boards are they are controlled by the right. Cy-Fair, Katie, I know is. I'm not. And Fort Bend has just been doing right-wing anti-library policies. So these are, you can pick your poison, unfortunately. We have the
Yeah.
unelected school board here. And then in these other places, because people don't show up for school board elections, Cy-Fair, which is, I think, the 49th or 50th largest district in the United States, is incredibly diverse, but it is a far right, I think 5-2 majority, and it's a tragedy, really. So, first topic today was they're getting rid of that. So, A, you don't have an elected board, and B, you can't comment. They're eliminating your general comment
And
section.
you know why that is important as well is when you said you don't have an elected board, it's not only that you don't have an elected board, but what they're saying is you don't have input to that board, because if the only thing on that board that can be spoken about when you go for public comment is on
That's
the
what they put.
agenda, it means that they dictate the agenda and you
Right,
follow. While if you have other things you can talk about, you can bring other things into the fold. So I mean
right.
that is completely and entirely anti-democratic, and
That is
you know,
right.
so I mean, they're not even trying to put a facade on it. It is anti-democratic, and it's where we're heading with what, which is why, and I'm taking my host hat off here. This is why in this upcoming 4 years, that's the only recourse that folks are going to have to be out there, and they're going to have to put their voice, their bodies, their finances on the line, because that is going to be the only way to prevent I mean, Neil, what you just stated there, right? It sounds simple. Well, the board voted that the only thing they can speak about are the things on the agenda. Okay, great. But when you hear the board is unelected and the
Right,
board sets the agenda. So therefore,
right,
since you can only talk about what the board wants to talk about, at that point in time, it's not a democracy, and you have no say in your school board. No say, because they dictate from the top.
right. It's all dictated from the top, and so and they keep saying that the people speaking are not representative, and yet the public rejected the board 60-40. News account after news account said it was because they did not like Mike Miles. Even the Chronicle editorial was initially open to Mike Miles. They came out against the bond specifically because of Mike Miles. So the people speaking are representative of the community, and the members of, just think, you remove. It's just unbelievable.
Well,
Those board members are 9 of the biggest scoundrels in town.
but it's not only that. Mike Miles, they follow their leader. Mike Miles is an authoritarian. He's a failed
Yes,
school. I mean, this is a guy that is not qualified for the job. This is a guy that doesn't even have what's the word, certification when he got the job.
right,
Don't you would hope that as he got the job, he would do the decent thing and get himself certified and qualified. But here we are. They're talking about a school system that has some issues, but the type of results that they want is to put unqualified teachers to solve the problem. They want to have teachers that are not necessarily certified. I mean, it is simply, this has nothing to do with our kids. This has nothing to do with their education. This has everything
right,
to do with the continuous privatization for the monetization of your kid's body into the pocket
right.
of a few.
And that's
I
why people didn't want to give them that bond money. That's why people didn't trust him. They didn't trust him.
Exactly.
Second topic I want to talk about. So this is, I want to bring it to a local angle, but this is a national NBC News article. Incoming Trump administration intends to rescind longstanding policy that has prevented Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE) agents from arresting undocumented people at or near so-called sensitive locations, including churches, schools, hospitals, events such as funerals, weddings, or public demonstrations. So now you can. Um, that policy dates back to 2011 and continued through the first Trump term. Continue. So this stuff is coming. This stuff is coming, and It has been brought to Mayor Whitmire's attention at council. I watched the council meetings once by me in October. I said to council, basically it's coming. What are y'all going to do? They don't want to talk about it. It's been brought up to Mayor Whitmire other times by speakers on a couple other occasions. And he just mumbles something about this is before the election. Well, it isn't legal. As if the Supreme Court won't ratify it in the end, whatever the challenges are. And, they're not going to do it. He said on a couple of occasions, well, logistically, that's impossible. Well, our state land commissioner, Dawn Buckingham, keeps offering land to the Trump administration to build detention camps. She's offered one place specifically and has made clear she'll offer others. There was a story yesterday I read, I think in the New York Times, about the prospect of local jails being used. The immigration czar, we call everyone a czar now, that's gone on for years, is Holman. Tom Holman has been saying, like Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago has been saying he'll oppose it. And Holman's been saying, well, we'll arrest him. The mayors of Chicago, the mayor of Denver and Boston have said it as well. And they said, well, we'll prosecute them. So now, local leaders, I've been thinking about, my own opposition to this. And I oppose these things on humanitarian grounds. I oppose these things. These things are massive extensions of the police state. So now, every local law enforcement agent, a cop, a sheriff's deputy, your constable, is now a potential deportation agent.
Let me interrupt you a second because I want Americans to understand something here, right? You just mentioned this is going to be like a police state, but let me just forewarn something, right? Why some of this stuff, if activists don't do their job, could actually succeed. Because these cops are going to leave the majority population alone. Welcome aboard, Jay from Los Angeles, California, and Paul Fleming from Powder Springs, Georgia. Let me tell you what's my problem with all of this, right? Because there are ways to do this that actually people support. The Nazis knew how to do this, right? In other words, they make a group of folks feel special, right? Those folks that are not discernible foreigners. And then the folks that have, brown skin. And by the way, don't be surprised if they leave African Americans alone on this round, right? Even though you have Haitians that you can't distinguish from anybody else. But, leave that alone. But at this point, they centralize on folks that they can sort of identify, they believe came from the south of the border, the Guatemala look, the Honduras look, the Mexico look, all that kind of stuff. This is not about anything other than, again, the monetization of people's bodies. Because you heard that congresswoman that says, hey, I have land. And then some other person is going to say, I can build this. And the idea is to have people funded by your tax dollars to lock folks up. And then, so that will be one source of income. The income made from locking people up, feeding them as they wait for their court date for deportation, which may take forever. But, they'll be making monies on that. But the other way they intend to make money is on the bribe scenario. Don't think that the farmers in Georgia, when it's time to collect their peaches, or the people cosechando, picking their crops in New Mexico or California, that they are not going to demand bribes from those businesses, meaning donate to this PAC or donate to that PAC, and we'll turn our eyes away from those undocumented workers that are picking the crops over there. This is well designed for making billions of dollars for a few people, and Americans don't get it. They don't get that this isn't about just being, for those people on the right wing. I mean, I'm talking about those crazy militia folks. They generally hate these people, but Trump don't hate these people. You wanted to say, sorry, go ahead, my brother.
Well, no, you mentioned militia, and I'm pulling. There's a story actually in yesterday's New York Times about, I'd have to find it, about militias militias wanting in.
Oh yes.
About right-wing militias, and I don't have the story in front of me, but the upshot of it was that these there are right-wing militia groups who are offering their services. Here, far-right militias seek role in Trump deportation plan, and this is yesterday. This story. A few days after the election, William Teer, Teer, who runs the Texas Three Percenters, right? Maybe you've seen
Right. Yeah.
their
Oh yeah.
stickers on your local
Yes.
ridiculous pickup truck. A local far-right militia group, though they're all over, wrote to Trump with an offer. His organization would help Mr. Trump carry out his plan. I want to extend my willingness to assist in cooperation with law enforcement and community programs to promote the safety. And remember, security, remember, come January 20th, our federal law enforcement will be run by criminals.
Yes.
That a felon will be in charge. The January 6th people will be pardoned. That our federal law, you never see the police. They keep bashing the FBI, and I don't want. We don't need to use time on politics done right to defend the FBI, but you notice that the police unions aren't complaining. You think they would be saying we're defunding the FBI,
Mm-hmm.
we're bashing our federal partners, because you hear all the time, some big criminal is caught, and Sheriff Gonzalez says, "Thank you to our federal partners," right? And so, Mr. Trump has yet to respond. The Trump transition team says the mass deportation plan would use state and federal resources. And then lastly, with this, Richard Mack, founder of a group of hard right sheriffs, so that's those constitutional sheriff nuts,
Mm-hmm.
said if members of his organization assisted with the initiative, meaning the groups such as the Three Percenters, it would be a lot easier, a lot cheaper, and a lot more effective. So in Missouri, I saw there's a law being proposed allowing a $1,000 bounty.
Mm-hmm.
In Texas, if you report someone who has enabled someone to get an abortion, there is that $10,000 reward. If you report someone, they
Mm-hmm.
help so-and-so go to New Mexico. So, right, we got bounties, we got militias, we got sheriffs who don't follow the law. And so, and then I want to end this topic just with saying, Mayor Whitmire, to what extent are you going to cooperate? Sheriff Gonzalez, is there room in the jail? Harris County commissioners, what are you going to do? Members of Armando, State Representative Armando Wally likes to talk about these things. He doesn't do much to help in campaigns to help elect, people who would oppose this. So people are going to need to see, people need to object from their own conscience on humanitarian and police state grounds. That stands alone. But people are going to need to see leadership from impacted communities. People are going to need to see leadership from impacted communities as well.
Let me tell you, Neil. First of all, this is not going to come from elected officials. Okay.
It's not. No.
I'm just saying point blank. These elected officials, and specifically the Democrats, have, to me, in my humble opinion, and I am, are coming out to be a whole bunch of wusses. I don't hear, as Trump is doing what he's doing with the FBI, as I am articulating the creation of these camps to make money. Again, like I said, forget about the hate and all that kind of stuff that's going to come from the militias, okay? Because
Right.
they're the only ones who really hate people. All right.
Assuming the militias don't get a contract.
Right.
It's not difficult to see the militias getting a contract.
Well, look, we already do it overseas. Overseas, we have contracted armies that do the work
Right.
for us. Okay, so we have BlackRock that does. We know that, and that's just come in here because if we're going to have the mass deportation, we don't have a police force ready to do that. So therefore, that will give Congress the ability to say, you know what, we are going to deputize and contract out this work. They may have some little program to get some sort of a certification done and lay these guys out in the field. And these guys, we know exactly what's going to happen. And we know that Trump is the kind of guy that says, crack the person's skull if he gets in your way. So look, the leadership is not going to come from our elected officials. What we have to do is have this begin on the grassroots and then start building elected officials from the grassroots. I mean, that's why I love in Florida where they elected Maxwell. Maxwell, I don't remember his
Frost.
Max. Yeah, Max. A Gen Zer, and we have others that are coming up and running because these guys are out there in the field. These other politicians are just trying to appease Trump at this point. But you know what, Neil? Hold your horses for a bit. Let's go to Johnny. Come on in, brother
Great.
Johnny.
Oh, and because that quickly, let me get into the safe room for sound. Okay.
Oh,
so,
you are out in the field, Johnny. Are you
Oh
out
yeah.
reporting
Okay.
from the field, Johnny?
Yeah, I'm reporting from the field. I'm on the run. That's the new reality. Anyway, I was telling Magic Jack when he answered the phone. I says, a maybe not theoretical good morning, maybe today, just for today, a good morning in light of the news from Brother Aquino. And that's my question for Brother Aquino. Sir, when you brought us the good news about, you said it was a 60-40% rejection of the bond.
Right.
If that's correct, my next question is, do you know what the participation rate was? How the percentage of voters who showed up? Was it a healthy number?
I just know that the county participation I've read was 60%. The bond was just HISD persons. I'm going to wager it was slightly lower because it was City of Houston, but county participation was 60% in the recent election.
Oh, that's higher than I thought. Neil, I didn't even know that.
Well, you got to think about it though, how tenuous, because 60% of people voted, and essentially the vote in Harris County was 50-50, right?
Hmm.
Harris got 55%, Christian Menifee got 51s. So if you think about it, 30% of so 40% didn't vote, 30% voted Republican, 30% voted Democrat, and that really shows
Ouch.
you the challenges
Yeah.
in for the Democratic Party, because here we are, what's seen as a Democratic county, the most diverse county in America. But the reality is, when you go out today, you're out driving around your day, basically 1 in 3 eligible Harris County citizens voted Democratic, and 2 in 3 either voted Republican or stayed
Or
home,
didn't
to give
vote.
you a
Yeah,
sense
I
of the
hear.
challenges.
That's terrible. Johnny?
And so at these percentages you just presented, they still rejected that bond.
Yes.
Yeah, they reject. Yeah, because
By
Republicans. It was what was interesting about the bond, as the board says, the so-called board of managers says that that the speakers don't represent the public. The Harris County Democratic Party, Republican Party, Libertarian Party, and the local socialists, Democratic Socialist of America chapter, all of those entities and the Chronicle came out against the board, so they had a healthy majority.
Okay, I'm sensing coalition. Coalition is the new watchword. As I've
Yeah.
been hoping for so long, and that's going
You
to be the
know,
new way.
Johnny, I'm glad that you said coalition because I'm of the belief right now that this is a time where we should be, when we see some of the evil that's going to be coming out in this country in the next year. This is a chance. I mean, you hear me say all of the time, most people are good people. This is a chance to let people's goodness come out. So
That's
I
right.
am
We
with
got a
you.
lot of opportunity for that. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm with you, brother.
So before I leave, let's just have this positive thought. So in spite of all the billions with a boy, billions of dollars that the corporate industrial oligarchy pump into elections nationwide and overseas in order to swing the governments towards the right, in spite of all that, this result that happened. So that's a good morning for me.
Wait a minute, Johnny. I am so happy you said that, Johnny. I am so happy you said that. And let me tell you why I'm happy. Right now, Democrats are. Thank you so kindly, Alice Aaron Dreams. Thank you so kindly. Let me just say this. This is very important for me to say. The
Yes, sir.
Democrats are going up and down, trying to self-examine, etc., etc., etc. Right? Because they lost. But here are the things that I think is sad that that Democrats don't quite push and realize. When Hillary Clinton in 2016 lost, she won the popular vote by 3 million votes. So in reality, most Americans were on the side. When even with the apathy that we had, with all the things that we had, Donald Trump beat in the popular vote beat Harris by 1.5 or 1.6%. But let's go a little bit deeper into all of that. With all the money spent, with all the misinformation, with all the things that Harris didn't do to counter the misinformation, Donald Trump still could not garner 50% of the American voting public. So what so while it is people beating up themselves on what went wrong, there's a lot went wrong in messaging, and there's a lot that is wrong with neoliberalism, but there is so much that can go right because it's such low hanging fruit. Continue, my brother Johnny.
I have a request. I don't know if you personally know Mayor Mondale Robinson. But
Of course, I know him personally. I have interviewed him twice. I meet him once a year at Netroots.
Please ask him to. I came across a video last night of him saying that he's no longer taking monies from and will not offer video appearances for TYT, and
Right.
he says that he's not going to. He says he's not going to sever relations with them. He says, but his appearance in another show might result in that. So if you can please speak to him and let him know that the last thing we need to do, and I understand his personal circumstance, I think it's horrific that he has to be on the run with his family, because there's a bunch of morons in this country who are self-entitled, ill-informed, poorly educated, who make it a requirement for him to stay alive in this way, having to live on the run like that. That's wrong. But at the same time, to publicly disassociate from TOIT, I think his criticism of TOIT is premature. And I, for one, as a listener or supporter, would not be ready and willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because right now is the worst time to do that. We have to circle the wagons and protect ourselves and not divide. Because if we divide amongst ourselves, that's what they want. They want
You know what?
divide and
I hadn't been following. I'm sorry, I hadn't been following his stuff with TYT. You know, he's a mayor of a small town in North Carolina, right?
Right.
And he caused a whole lot of problems because he built a lot of homes for poor people and that sort of stuff. But I tell you what, I'm going to now that you're telling me about this, I'm going to give him a call itself to see exactly what's going on out there, because I wasn't following that line.
Yeah, I posted a long comment on that website for that show. I forget what the name of it is. They have like several 100,000 followers.
Oh yeah.
And 100,000 followers is nothing. It's not chump change, but compared to TYT, it's tiny. And the last thing he should be doing is making a public statement like he did. Now he's done it. So if you could please communicate to him.
I'll talk to him. I'll definitely. I want to hear what's going on from the source. So I'm going to give him a call. Thank you, my brother.
I will say that I don't think Anna Kasparian or Chink are looking to become like another example of left-wing folks who turn right-wing. I don't think that's the case. She has recently said some annoying things to me in her criticism about the far left, but I think it could be strategy. So that's what I'll say for right.
I need to go ahead and talk. I need to talk to him and see what's going on. So I'll do that, and I'll get back with you on that, Johnny. All right?
Have a good morning, everybody, and stay safe.
Thank you, brother. Before I go, though, I think Neil wanted to say something. Neil, you were talking something about Kasparian?
No. I'm just I'm not an expert on Anna and all that stuff. I'm a little wary, though. You see the pattern. You see the path. I want to keep hope. You see the path to the right for some of these.
Well, let me do some investigation on that one. Let's go to brother Augie. Come on in, Augie.
Yeah, good morning to all you geniuses there. Well, I'll just, I remembered in the 50s when that Eisenhower and the Republicans shut down the Bracero program, and they deported a lot of these immigrants. But it wasn't only immigrants they deported. it was Mexican Americans. And back in the 50s, when they talked about us Mexican Americans, they would always leave out the American part of us. And they would just call us Mexicans too, even though we were born here. And that's what we're going to be going back to, it seems like. When they start deporting with immigrants, us Native Americans better watch out, because we're the same color. We look like they do. And they were talking about militias. Well, when Trump was around, there were civilian Christian groups that would put water out there in the desert in Arizona and New Mexico. Well, militia groups, civilian groups that were armed, went over there and overturned the water that these other groups were putting out there for the immigrants who were dying on the desert. And it looks like the Republicans don't care about all these people that were dying. And they were just coming here running away from problems that America created back in the Central America and in Venezuela.
I suggest people, Augie, there's a series that's streaming on Netflix right now called Turning Point, and they're covering sort of the Cold War. And I would suggest anybody listening right now put some time away and watch that series. You would learn a whole lot. We love to hate on Iran, but there's little that people know about Mossadegh. Okay, we like to hate on supposed dictators in Central America. There's little that is known as far as what our CIA had done to a whole lot of people that created that. We like to hate on the former dictator of Venezuela. ¿Cómo se llama? You know who I'm talking about.
Chavez.
Chavez, Hugo Chavez. But they don't talk about what the oligarchy in cahoots with our own oligarchy has done. What I always say is the reason why people like the idea of banning books, the reason people like the idea of not educating folks is because when you get educated, you find out, oh my God, there is actually some reason to the madness. And I hope, and that's one of the things I hope to do with programs like this and the blogs that I write and pushing the blogs and stuff that Neil writes and other good bloggers out there, because we are not being informed, and not being informed have us making the very wrong decision. The series Billy Allison is called Turning Point. Billy Allison is on our chat right now. It's called Turning Point, and it's on Netflix. I don't know what season they're in right now, but this one is excellent. And I mean the narrative, the fact-based information that you can actually verify, it's all there. But I mean, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Let me make two quick points. That's right. They will deport American citizens. They have been asked. They keep it nebulous as to whether by design, whether intentionally, or they'll give people the option. But you get a family of six, four are undocumented, two are American citizens. Maybe one of those American citizens is 5 years old, or maybe one is the father or the mother, and they'll tell them, you can go with them. You can go with them. There's going to be circumstances where the parents are undocumented, the children are here. That's why they keep going after birthright citizens. And then Augie also mentioned Christian groups. Ken Paxton has gone after Catholic charities in El Paso. They will go after liberal Christian, or not even liberal, but they will go after, the mainstream Catholic Church. They'll do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, it is sad, but you know what, Augie? Like I said, they start one place, but eventually this is what a lot of people don't understand. When I talk about capitalism, sometimes people get a sour feeling because we've been indoctrinated into the system, right? But when you look at the mathematical formula that governs capitalism, that growth formula, right? It is unsustainable. And what that says is you have to keep eating. You eat other countries, you eat your own, and eventually you start to eat your own people, right? And that is what's happening. That is what has happened, right? We have eaten all the other things, so we have to now eat our own. And then while we're eating our own, we says, hey, it's not really our own that we're eating. The problem is all them foreigners that are coming over here. As they throw the foreigners out, they're going to realize, like, oh my God, these foreigners were more an asset than a liability, because now things are going to be very different. Consumption is going to fall in some areas, and the inability to support is going to rise. It's just amazing, Augie, what is in store if we don't mitigate what has happened. Go ahead, Augie, before I go to Betty.
Yeah, and these minorities here, Native Americans, don't realize we're going not forward by electing these Republicans. We're going backwards. Back in the 50s and 60s, hate, prejudice, bigotry was legal until JFK and LBJ said, no, we need to integrate our schools. We need to do away with this bigotry that we got with the hate. And Trump and the Republicans want us to go back. Abortion was illegal back then. And the newspapers, they were talking about teachers, nurses, housewives, and every once in a while businesswomen that were dying all this time because abortion was illegal back then. And now that it was made legal, everything is fine. Now we're going backwards again.
Well, guess what? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Augie.
Yeah, we were taught about how great all our heroes were. We were never taught about the blemishes they had. Nobody was perfect. George Washington was perfect, and Andrew Jackson was perfect. And I was the boomer generation in the 60s when he went to Vietnam. And I remember some boomer said we were the last generation, the boomer generation, to believe that our government never lied to us, because we were lied to in the 50s and 60s. We were told how imperfect they were. In Texas, everybody celebrates Texas independence when he broke away from Mexico. It wasn't independence. It was the first war of secession. They seceded from Mexico. The first illegal immigrants were the Americans that came into Texas, which was part of Mexico at that time. And so it wasn't a war of independence. It was a war of secession, and it was also about slavery. Texas independence was the very first, and slavery and secession war, and then the Civil War was the second one for the Texans. But and that's how we're going to now.
Okay, thank you, my brother. I mean, I gave that little history lesson there that I think a lot of folks don't quite realize. The border actually moved south. It wasn't that a lot. I mean, it is again, but when you don't know that, and that is why you don't see me just attacking folks that say foolish things, because by design, we don't know a whole lot of stuff. We don't know our real history. The 1619 project comes out and people started to panic. And they panic because for once we're going to get a true American story. When Howard Zinn wrote his book, The Real History of the United States of America, people got into a panic. He's a communist. No, he just happened to tell the truth. There's nothing wrong with the truth. No country is pure. It's not about attacking the country. I love America because of what we are becoming. Okay, it's that simple. I mean, and there are a lot of countries that are trying to get there. But we have to be honest about it. Thank you very much for your call, as usual, my brother Augie.
And with Brian, when he calls and talks about illegal aliens, we need to remind them nobody is born illegal. It's just people make other people illegal.
Thank you, my brother. And not only that, he needs to atone for himself for, I mean, how illegal is he, if you want to call about illegal? When did his forefathers come here? Did they sort of originate here? I don't think so. Thank you, Augie. You have a wonderful rest of your day. And let's go to our beautiful sister, Betty. Come on in, Betty. How you doing? Betty, you're on. Betty.
Hello.
Yes, you're on.
There we go. I woke up this morning, and I'd rather take a hard beating to do anything,
Yeah.
Trump, let's start with Trump. Trump got to buy America 4 years again, his way. He lives a charmed life. And you would say luck, and that's what it is. It's not anything else. It's not what will be, and it's not God. God has more sense. And on the 3%ers, our business had to have guns, and I will suit up with my 12 gauge and my Colt 380 on. I am a Texan. And to Harry, hope your brother gets out of the woods soon. Love y'all.
Thank you, Betty. Love you, girl. Anyway, we have to have our taste of Betty every morning. Betty's going to give us a little.
I had a friend.
Go
I
ahead.
had a friend briefly. A friend who told me her adult son got a gun. They're on our side of the aisle, and people need to make those. People need to make the decisions for their own self protection. I'm not advocating or against it, but that just we do. There is the Second Amendment. Whatever we think about it, it's not just for one side, and people need to figure out what works for their home.
For those who want guns, power to you. I don't particularly like guns. Now, if for some
No, I don't either.
reason, we reached a stage in our country where it looks like that is the answer, and I know the gun companies would love that, I would do what I have to do to protect myself and my family and my friends, right? But I am hoping that with good dialogue, with civil dialogue, that we can actually mitigate that. Because, like I said, most people are good. There are these external. I tell you what, I want to read something real. We don't have any calls on, so I want to read something real quick because it is about a conference that I went to and the results. And I'm going to start this way. It's a blog I did yesterday. It's on the newsletter as well. I was not sure what I was going to write about today. My morning show had some great discussions. A couple of years ago, I attended a retreat in upstate New York where activists, community organizers, community volunteers, and other good intended people of all ideologies met to discuss how to bring the country together. The people were frank, got along, and genuinely liked each other. That did not surprise me at all. Do you know why? Most people share more in common than not. While that is a cliche, it is absolutely the truth. One retreat organizer sent a message that hit a nerve as he commemorated the event. The event was 2 years ago, and he just sent this out. He said, this is what he wrote to us, to about several of us. Are we naive and do we not represent the Americans or what the Americans are thinking? He asked. While we all believe that when a society is cohesive and people feel connected to each other and trust and support one another, it will lead to a more harmonious and stable community. But are we missing something? Do most Americans believe this? What are we doing wrong? Are we just preaching to the choir? Just as we are asking America to open to change, we too must be open to change. I believe it is time for us to question old assumptions if we are to be successful. I replied to him. I said, I have two answers to your questions. You asked, are we naive and do we not represent what Americans are really thinking about? The first answer that we do not have it wrong at all. I see America through many eyes because of the multitude of identities, both foreign and otherwise, I have. I can see America as the outsider based on the propaganda America sells and the reality of being an American. The exported American story and history books of the American story is wonderful and should be considered aspirational. But we never had a history that warranted the phrase, make America great again. Our group should believe in MAGFA, make America great for all. Our conflicts are that for the few that control our narrative expansively, they have promoted a nostalgia that most never lived irrespective of their identities. But they have convinced the majority identity that their inability to achieve the dream is a result of those others. The fact is, those others do not exist. It should be we Americans. But when there is a class in a system of manufactured scarcity that uses resource to control, it necessitates division and deception manufactured as truths. So the second answer is the following. In a controlled environment, we are on point. When we leave that controlled environment and absorb the externalities, it allows the fears and prejudices instilled in us because of how we were reared, the untamed animal nature of the masses to reemerge. We must get real and get to the core. And I followed up with a few other things, pointing out who we really are. And until we accept who we really are, we can't change. So the question the guy had was, are we doing it right? And my answer is yes, we're doing it right. And how do we know we're doing it right? When we bring people together, they all spill their guts and they talk about the things, and there is common ground that we meet. But when we meet the externalities, the Fox News is the all these things that are giving you bad information, then we have the problem. Harry, come on in real quick. We're running low on time. I trust that your brother is doing fine, Harry.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that because Betty made some comments a few weeks ago, and I thank her for her kind words. My brother's taking his meds. The only thing he has a problem with is when it gets cold. He sometimes gets hit when we get these cold blasts. The histamine attacks affect him. But his main problem was he had a lot of fluid buildup, as I mentioned a few weeks ago. But in the hospital they drained a lot of that fluid
Well, look,
for his. And
I love your brother. Tell your brother I say hi, but I need you to kind of wrap it up for me, my brother.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up. I enjoyed what Donnie said. I heard some of those interviews you did with Mondale Robinson. He's a good man. I'm glad that he helps poor people and he looks out for colored people. And as Jack Van Dever would say about Mike Miles and has said in the past, Mike Miles is a snake in the grass, and it's good that they rejected that bond because Mike Miles will just misappropriate the funds.
Thank you.
Aren't stupid. They see him for what he is.
Thank you, Harry. Great to hear your voice. Thank you, brother. We'll talk another day. We'll talk. We got to talk another day because we're running out of time. Let's go to Brian. Come on in, Brian, real quick.
Yeah, mental health is a problem in the United States, and a big problem could be repaired if you spent the money in the right direction, such as illegal aliens. A lot of homeless people. I don't know if you've been to the New York subway. People actually live on the subway. Homeless people live in that condition. And that can be changed if they spent the $4.5 billion on the homeless.
Okay. I'm for spending money on the homeless. I don't see why you need to bring in the illegal aliens, as you call them, at all. I mean, I think we can, we don't have to just do one. We can do both. We have the monies to do both. And that is what one of the things that I talk to you about, Brian, is listen to your heart. Listen to what you just said. You just showed a compassion, a humane compassion that a lot of folks that listen to you will not believe came out of you. We can do both. We're wealthy. We're a very wealthy country. It's just the way it's distributed. It's distributed incorrectly because it's distributed to those who didn't earn it. So I want to end this call on a positive note and just tell you thank you for those thoughts. All right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, bye.
You have a wonderful day. All right. Let's. We are coming close to the end of the program, and what I would love for you to do, my dear friend, is go ahead and give us a closer on the topics that you think right now we need to be cognizant of.
Right. So, I remain very interested in how we locally will respond to the deportations, our moral response. Will other communities show up and stick up for one another? We've been beginning to see about the legislative session. They're selecting a new speaker. That's a lot of inside baseball, but our state representative Gene Wu, and we'll talk about him in the weeks to come, is the new Democratic leader in the Texas House of Representatives. I have mixed feelings about Gene Wu, but the new Democratic leader is Gene Wu. I think it's an 86-64 or something like that, 84-66 Republican majority. So those are two topics, and you can go to HoustonDemocracyProject.com, and there's a blog where I stick pretty much all to local.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be interviewing Gene Wu in the next few days, actually. I
I'm
don't
gonna give
know.
you a call. I'm gonna give you a call.
Excellent. Excellent. Anyway, let's go to this. Well, it looks like we got a quick call. Let me see. I got 1 minute. If just throw that call out. Omar, come on in.
Sir, just real quick, I know you're short on time. but I really enjoy what you're talking to. I stumbled onto your radio station as I'm driving into work. But I think you guys need to coordinate some conversations with Dr. Shiva if you don't know him.
Please, let me ask you to do me a favor. Since we're low on time, kpft at politicsdoneright.com, or just call it, and give us the information. We'll be more than happy to talk to whomever that's moving stuff forward. Okay?
Yes, he's the one that's on this platform that you guys are talking about.
Okay, great.
Yeah, he would really he would benefit a lot of the information from this individual.
Thank you so kindly, my brother. You have a great day, Omar. All right, give me a closer, studio.
Well, when you talk about the detention centers that they're building, those are not detention centers. Those are concentration camps.
Amen.
That's what I've got to say. Jack, what you got? Jack waves us off and says no, so Egberto, take us home.
Okay, Neil, take us home. HoustonDemocracyProject.com.
HoustonDemocracyProject.com. It's another great day in Houston, Texas, and thank you everyone for making the show great.
Look, I want to thank everybody in the chat. We have Billy, Allison, Irwin, Eric Hayes, Jay from California. We also have Paul Fleming. We have Smelly Something. I won't say what the Smelly Something is.
Okay.
That was so funny. Okay, anyway, folks, look, all the rest of the program is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. After 2 recounts, an incumbent North Carolina Supreme Court justice was declared the winner by 734 votes, with 5.5 million ballots cast. Her GOP challenger now claims 60,000 of those voters were ineligible. Democratic Supreme Court Justice Allison Riggs was declared the winner over appeals